So we're going to talk about the Apocalyptimist. What was it about the project that initially drew you on board?
I met the filmmakers. I actually worked with Daniel Rohr's wife on a film called Your Monster that went to Sundance, and we were in locking that film, and we were like talking over Zoom, and he popped his head in and asked me if I had ever done a documentary before, and I said yeah. And next thing I know, I'm like sitting at a table with Dan and Charlie Tyrell and Dan Kwan and the producers of the film, and we're discussing the AI doc that they want to make, and they talked about it so passionately and so like fervently because Daniel and Charlie both had kids on the way. Their kids were going to be born around the same time, and they talked about it as just like, it's the thesis of the film is more about like what we're going to leave behind for these kids, what kind of world we're going to leave behind for them. I had a nephew who was 4 at the time, and I was already thinking about AI in that way. I was like, he's never going to know a world without it. And so as responsible adults, we have to make sure we get this right now, since this is definitely going to be around for those kids. So that really kind of piqued my interest in wanting to be a part of it.
Now, you have to balance the fear, legitimate fear, but also the hope, because there's a lot of things it could do. So what was the process in finding that kind of balance to showcase both sides of it without one side tilting too much one way?
Yeah, it's a difficult tonal balance for this kind of movie because so many people are going to watch it going into it with their own kind of ideas about AI and their own subjective feelings about AI, and you have to really try to make the movie for everyone, which is really hard. There are going to be people who are what they call doomers, who think AI is going to bring some sort of Terminator-esque end of the world. And then you have people who are accelerationists who just want us to get this thing done faster, no matter what, without the safety rails. And they're like, it's great. We should just use it more and more and more and more because it can be so great. And I think we kind of tackled the tonal balance, knowing that those two different types of people were out there, along with the people who were going to watch the movie just curious because they keep hearing about this AI thing, but they don't know what it is. So we kind of presented the film or tackled it in the way of an essay documentary. This is not it's about this subject, but we're following a protagonist, the director, Daniel. And as long as we ground people in his character, they're able to kind of just go on a journey with him, and we can make them laugh and we can make them upset and keep, changing the tone of the film because you're following Daniel's character and you're learning as he's learning. So I think that was kind of the conceptual way of dealing with it. It was just like, if we get people really on board with this guy, then they won't get bored. And they'll be scared when they need to be scared because he is, but then they'll be hopeful when they need to be hopeful because he is. So that was kind of the idea of it.
Now, there's two elements where we have the tech world that's actually wants guardrails, that understands the risk, and the other one's like, they'll blow by it. How do you want to balance those kind of, like, within even the tech world, there's a major divide?
Yeah, a lot of people in the tech world are saying to the government, like, you should regulate us because we won't stop if no one stops us. And I think there's a lot of people in the tech world that very much see AI as an issue. Like, they're building it. And they know that there are times where AI is doing things that they didn't tell them to do. It's just doing things on its own. And that is something that needs to be checked. And I don't think that I think because of what is considered the AI race, whereas so many countries, so many companies are working on the same thing, it's really hard for any of them to stop because then they won't be the first. Right. And especially in this country, a lot of people want us to be the first, and China wants to be the first. And, and so I think that in the film, what we did was give everybody a voice. And instead of leaning one way or another, like I said, we're following someone who's learning. And you see him oscillate between the two. You see him oscillate between hope and pessimism because of the people he's talking to. And ultimately, we had to try to find a way to, like I said, just human point of view, after taking all this information in from these people, how do you feel? And that's kind of the emphasis on it.
We have a lot of editing students in our audience who watch. So my question is, was there any particular scene or sequence moment that was most difficult to get right? That took you a little while in post? Like you're proud of it that, whoa, we pulled it off, but this one was interview was something that was a little hard to find.
I think it was that. There's a section about the dual use of AI that was really hard to, because I tried to stay objective, as objective as possible, and that was one that was really, I don't know how many versions of it I did. I don't know how many versions of the opening of this movie that I cut personally. I don't know how many Davis did. Like, there was constant variations and versions of absolutely everything, but the dual use problem was really hard because it really was about balancing the good and the bad of this thing. And it's really hard sometimes as an editor to not lean in a certain way with your cutting because you feel personal connection to especially this topic. So that was the hard one. I'm very happy with the way it turned out because I think it, like I said, lets the audience kind of decide. Like the audience is just taking it in versus us trying to tell them this is what you should be feeling. And I think it worked out really fine.
And our last question is, when did you know you wanted to be an editor?
I knew I wanted to be an editor when I found out it was a job. I was cutting in high school. I had a camera. I was like cutting in camera, like because I didn't have software. But I had my granddad's old camera, and I would be like, okay, you talk. Now you talk. Okay, wait. Now you say the next line. I was always really interested in it. I was really interested in like Robert Zemeckis films, and like I didn't know why until I got to college, and I was watching City of God with my professors, and it was just I was blown away, and I was like, God, I like want to do this, but like, and he was like, well, the editing was like a big part of the opening sequence, and I was like, talk to me about that. And then I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. I was in college for computer engineering because I thought I just need a job, but I switched my major to film after watching that movie, and I kind of never looked back.